turn around and flip them for a profit.
Moving on to the next guy who went 5 picks later with the 19th pick of the third round, a guy that I am super high on. It's Dyami Brown from North Carolina going to the Washington football team. And let me tell you why I like Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown is 6'1", 189 pounds, so he has pretty ideal size for a receiver. But at North Carolina, he had 2 terrific seasons these past 2 seasons. In 2020, he had 55 catches for 1,099 yards. And in 2019, he had 51 catches for 1,349 yards. And oh, by the way, throughout he had 12 touchdowns in his sophomore year and 8 touchdowns in his junior year. This is pretty impressive because I'm not sure if the North Carolina has had great quarterback play, particularly either. It is not. I'm not super familiar with North Carolina and their college program. But
Hal should be the number 1 pick probably next year. So they've had a pretty good quarterback, but he's been an underclassman.
That's right. I did hear about Hal. So, okay, they did have Hal. But anyways, a guy putting up stats like this 2 years in a row as a sophomore and junior. And he's doing this, by the way, with 51 and 55 receptions. So it's not like he's getting a ton of targets. He's maximizing his opportunities and putting up stats that are up there with the top of the top. And so this is a guy that you could argue talent-wise and what he's produced statistically makes him a top 6-7 receiver in this class. But oh, by the way, he's falling to the 3rd round now in the draft, and he's actually ending up in a landing spot better than the guys that went before him because the Washington football team, they have Terry McLaurin, but do they have a number 2 receiver? No, they don't. Cam Sims is not going to cut it. Let's be real here for a second. Cam Sims is not going to cut it. So this is a guy who's going to step in right away and be the number 2 receiver. So if anything, I can see this guy having a top 5 season as far as rookie receivers this upcoming season because there's such an immediate chance for Brown to shine. And I love the talent and I love the situation. So both of those things match up for me. And Ryan Fitzpatrick in their offense, well, just knowing Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's a guy who likes to sling the ball and likes to throw. He's not afraid for those big throws. And Dyami Brown is a guy that could be a deep target as well. So this is a situation to really like, especially in the short term. But I think his talent overall what will help him secure the number 2 role for Washington in the long term.
Yeah, well, you did forget Curtis Samuel was with there in the offseason.
Curtis Samuel, okay, yes. Curtis Samuel might be the number 2 receiver, but I'm not saying that Curtis Samuel is a lot better than Dyami Brown. If anything, I think those are 2 very comparable players, and that Dyami Brown can still end up overtaking Curtis Samuel for the number 2 role because it's not like Samuel's established in Washington anyway. They're gonna walk on 2 equal playing fields. If anything, 2 equal playing fields, honestly.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't. You know how high I was on Dyami Brown. I think I was probably higher than anybody else in the industry pre-draft. And, the fact that he didn't get a super high draft capital, I think a lot of people just never really caught up to like where the hype was heading towards. So now he kind of ended up back, to where he's at. And I know you said you saw him, at the beginning of the 3rd rounds and in most of your drafts. That's pretty much where I got him in every draft. There was 2 guys that I walked away with almost in every draft. It was Terrence Marshall, because if he was falling to the 2nd, I was taking him. And Dyami Brown, if he was falling to the 3rd, I was taking him no matter what. And, I wasn't trading out those picks and I wasn't, moving up or down. I was sticking with it. So, I ended up with Dyami Brown maybe being my number 1 owned player out of all my dynasty leagues. So, I'm really high. I think that there's a lot of potential for profit here. Curtis Samuel, I do think will outtouch him for sure, year 1. But Terry McLaurin is another guy. He did not have 1st-round draft capital as a rookie, so he's only got a couple years left before they have to really choose on renewing his contract and whether they want to pay him if they view him to be an elite receiver that they want to pay top 10, top 20 money. They might just let him walk. And if that's the case, Dyami Brown is almost a clone to Terry McLaurin. He averaged over 20 yards a catch with a lot of volume in college, which is it's got to be one of the highest out of anybody I scouted. And the way he wins is he wins deep. He wins. He's a burner. He gets downfield, and I think there's actually a lot of room for him to grow because we didn't see him run a really complex route tree at North Carolina. They didn't ask him to, and as Chris Sims says, why would the team tell him to do something different and teach him other routes when he consistently wins for 20 yards down the field every time? They don't need him to do that. But in NFL, he probably has higher upside now because he can still learn the trees, like we saw with DK Metcalf and some other receivers like A.J. Brown. The same knock on Metcalf was he only ran slants down the Mississippi offense coming out of college. And look how that turned out. Now he's one of the better route runners in the entire league to mix with the athletic ability. So I really like Dyami Brown. And I think that, if you're getting him at the late second and early third of your rookie drafts, I think you're walking away with one of the better players in the draft.
One of the guys that we both really like. So you can expect for Dyami Brown to produce and put up some big